The outcast begins with a drunken man walking through the woods. He was dissatisfied with the state of his village and desired to relocate to a large city. He unintentionally stopped at a village cemetery due to his inebriation. For a while, he was seen resting and sitting in one of the tombs. Following that, his gaze was drawn to someone digging a grave, but strangely, all the tombstones in the cemetery fell in quick succession. The next day, a young woman named Fu Ho was driving to the village in the vehicle of a local resident. She requested that she be stopped in front of a mountain gate. Meanwhile, there was a commotion at the village cemetery, where some of the cemeteries appeared to be in disarray. Song, a police inspector, was in charge of the investigation. Soon after, the cops came across a tomb known as Zhang Xilin. Even though the body has vanished, the tomb appears to be in good condition. If a thieves targeted Zhang Xilin's grave, this would not be a typical grave excavation case, according to Song. Song remembered Zhang Xilin's grandson, Zhang Chulin, calling him once while he was studying in the city. On the phone, Chulin stated that he planned to visit Zhang Xilin's grave during his summer vacation this year. When Song went to call Chulin, Fu Hao, who was disguised, appeared at the police station. She claimed to be Zhang Xilin's granddaughter. Song was skeptical of her words because he knew Zhang Xilin only had a grandson. But she tries to persuade Song by revealing her identity, claiming to be Zhang Baobao. When Chulin arrived in his village, he went straight to the police station to meet Song. Chulin was taken aback when he learned that Zhang Xilin's body had been stolen, and a woman named Zhang Baobao arrived, claiming to be Zhang Xilin's granddaughter. Song then repeated all of Zhang Baobao's words. She told him that Zhang Xilin died when Chulin was 7 years old. Chulin was then taken to an orphanage by his father, Zhang Yud. His father then vanished without a trace. She claimed to have been born to a different mother than Chulin, but that their father was Yud. Chulin then said goodbye to going to Zhang Xilin's grave despite the fact that it was almost night. When Chulin arrived at the cemetery, he noticed someone digging a grave. When he was about to take a photo, the person looked up, and it turned out to be Hao, who claimed to be Zhang Baobao. When Chulin was apprehended by Hu Hao, he fled the village cemetery. Despite the fact that Chulin thought he had run a long distance, Hu was able to track him down and beat him unconscious. When Chulin awoke, he was terrified to see Ho using a knife to cut the undead or Jiangshi in front of him. She dragged Chulin into a grave pit and said she would bury him because he had interfered with her business. Chulin recalled Song's words until he realized Ho was his sister, Zhang Baobao. When Chulin addressed her as Baobao, she responded that she was not. Even the ID she presented to the police yesterday was a forgery. Just as Hulu was about to bury Chulin, the Jiangshi appeared from the grave. She could, however, easily cut the Jiangshi bodies with her knife. She then abandoned Chulin and the remaining Jiangshi. A man named Zhou San stood outside the cemetery waiting for Hu. Hu informed Zhou San that Zhang Xilin's body had been stolen, and that she had left Zhang Xilin's grandson in the grave pit with the remaining Jiangshi. There is an unexpected flash of lightning from the direction of the tomb, the light of which reaches the sky. Hu and Zhou San made their way back to the cemetery. They noticed that the Jiangshis had been scorched, and that Chulin was no longer present. Zhou San finds Chulin's ID on the ground and suggests that Hu attend the same school as Chulin. Zhou San then easily provided Hu with a new alias. Meanwhile, a man named Ryu is receiving a call from a woman in a building. Ryu told Natsuka, the woman in front of him, that the woman who had called him earlier had discovered Zhang Xilin's body and would bring it to them. Chulin was seen at his campus the next day. He quickly deleted Ho's photo from his phone and forgot about the strange incident from the night before. Chulin was surprised to see Ho sitting beside him with a straight face when he turned to his side by accident. Chulin asked Hu to speak behind the campus building after class. He inquires as to her true identity. Ho replied innocently that she had forgotten her new identity. She then read from her ID, which stated that her current name was Zhang Ho and that she was from Taiwan. Zhou San simply changed her surname to Zhang on her new identity. Chulin, who is annoyed and perplexed, requests that she not appear in front of him again. Hao then summoned Zhou San in front of Chulin and asked if she could do anything for Chulin. Hu wants Chulin to be her servant after receiving approval from Zhou San. She then asked Chulin to reveal the power he was concealing. Hao stated that she recognized Chulin's power the moment they met. She purposefully buried him and left him with Jiangshi so that he could use his power at the time. Hao then attacked Chulin in order to bring out his power. Chulin remembered Zhang Xilin's warning that he should not abuse his power. He recalls his father being angry with him as a child because he was always fighting with other kids, but his grandfather was always there to defend him. Even Zhang Xilin was willing to relocate houses to other villages whenever Chulin demonstrated his strength, believing that such strength should be kept hidden from others. Chulin questioned Zhang Xilin on why they needed to have hereditary power and keep it hidden from everyone. Yu Zhangxilin replied would explain everything to him when he grew up. Chulin complained to Zhangxilin about his abusive father. Zhangxilin immediately attacked and scolded Yu after hearing Chulin's confession. Chulin asked Zhangxilin at the time what was the point of learning science if he couldn't use it. Zhangxilin responded that he wished for him to be able to live a normal life like other children without the power. Nonetheless, the Zhang family had inherited that power through generations and must continue to do so, because at the time having power was feared by others, so their family inherited the knowledge. Chulin inquires as to when he is permitted to use his power, and his grandfather responds as to when he began to rely on that power. Chulin used his Kenku power as soon as he finished remembering his memories. Hou was eager to continue attacking Chulin, so he unleashed his might. It is well known that Kenku's strength can be used to both defend and attack, making his opponent's life difficult. Chulin easily defeated Hou at the start of the fight with Kenku. Ryu, on the other hand, was examining Zhangxilin's body. He attempted but failed to absorb the power from the corpse. Ryu was forced to make a promise by the two Jiangshis who brought the corpses. They could both become members of the Zensei organization if they were successful in bringing Zhangxilin's corpse. But Ryu broke his promise because Zhangxilin's corpse was useless to him. He then tasked the two Jiangshi with bringing Chulin before him, alive or dead. Chulin, on the other hand, who was still fighting Hou, was defeated. She then stripped naked all of Chulin's clothes because the innocent Hou didn't realize it was wrong. According to the agreement, because Hou won, Chulin must now be her servant. If he refuses, she will divulge all of his secrets. She then gave him a cell phone before leaving him naked and alone behind the campus building. Chulin receives a cell phone notification that there is one friend request when he arrives at the hostel. The request turned out to be from a woman named Ryu Kenken, who made him very happy, and he immediately began chatting with her. She invites him to a meeting the next night. When Hou arrived on campus the next day, he asked Chulin to meet someone later that evening. Chulin, on the other hand, prefers to meet with Kenken at night and turn off his cell phone. He waited for her on the side of the road, and not long after, Kenken approached him and invited him to dinner. Hou was seen in the car with Jo-san calling Chulin's cell phone but was unable to connect. Hou eventually tracked down Chulin's phone using the tracking device that their organization had pre-installed. They both went to where he was after being tracked down. Meanwhile, Chulin is still at the restaurant with Kenken for dinner. He inquired as to why he had never seen her despite the fact that they were on the same campus. She responds that she rarely leads class, but she has been watching him for quite some time. Kenken invites Chulin to her apartment after dinner because they can't return to the dormitory. It is, after all, late. When they arrived at her apartment, they were seen kissing. Kenken, on the other hand, secretly injected poison into Chulin's body, which she wanted to have sex with him. It was discovered that there was a seal called Chogongsa on Chulin's genitals that could detect whether a girl was sincere with him or not. Chulin immediately inquired as to who Kenken was and what she was up to. She turns out to be the woman Ryu assigned to catch him, and she also has control over Jiangxi. Chulin was furious, but he couldn't use his Kenku ability because Kenken had injected poison into the back of his neck. They eventually managed to apprehend Chulin. Hou, on the other hand, was on her way and kept checking her tracking device for Chulin's location. When Hou noticed Chulin speeding towards the city's outskirts, she became suspicious of what was going on with him. Zensei organization, according to Jo-san, has recently appeared in Z City. Chulin was possibly kidnapped. Kenken then led Chulin to what appeared to be a forest. The Zensei organization members were already waiting for him. Finally, Kenken is accepted into their organization because she was successful in bringing Chulin with her. Ryu then approached Chulin, who was restrained. He immediately used his power to read Chulin's mind because he was looking for Zhangxilin's inheritance through Chulin's memories and Zhangxilin's corpse. Fortunately, Jo-san and Hou arrived quickly. Kenken immediately summoned the Jiangshi to confront them. Jo-san, who possesses the ability to fly objects, attacked the Jiangshi from a distance, aided by Hou, who specialized in close combat and attacked them with her knife. Hou started attacking and fighting Natsuka, but she retaliated with a stronger attack. Jo-san warned Hou not to underestimate Natsuka because she is one of 4 Zensei mages known as the Bone Scraper. When Natsuka and her friends are caught off guard, Jo-san summons another man named Saru, who possesses the ability to attack from underground and manages to bring Chulin to Jo-san. Meanwhile, Hou is furious at Chulin for turning off his cell phone. She stabbed Chulin in the back of the neck to extract the worm that Kenken had implanted in his body. Jo-san, it turned out, had meticulously planned everything. He had brought all of his organization's members to capture the Zensei members there. Following that, the Zensei members fled because they realized their position was under siege, and they were outnumbered to fight Jo-san and his followers. Hou wonders why Chulin is unhappy when they save him. He explained why bad luck always befalls him despite Jiang Xilin's prediction that when a lot of bad luck befalls, good things will follow. Baobao advised him not to be concerned because bad luck does not always have a negative outcome. Chulin was relieved that Baobao's words had made him feel better, but she persisted in saying that all of his bad luck was due to his stupidity. Meanwhile, Ryu and Kenken were being pursued by two men from Joseon's organization as they fled by car. Suddenly, a Joseon member appeared and blocked their path, but they hit him. A man, on the other hand, shoots at the car with an energy ball weapon until he manages to throw Kenken out. Kenken immediately asked Ryu for assistance, but he was unconcerned. She fell because he didn't consider her a member of his organization. Baobao picks up Chulin from his dorm the next day. She plans to invite him to her organization. The Ho-Ho organization turned out to be an express shipping company. Joseon approached them as they entered the location. According to Joseon, all of the workers here are referred to as foreigners due to the Zhang family's power. Foreigners are not always strong people. That title is only given to people who can control Kai. Joe stated that Chulin's King Ku was a technique he learned rather than an inheritance. Joe explains that foreigners have inherited and learned abilities. Chulin then inquired about the Zensei organization, which appeared to be hostile to Joseon's Express Expedition organization. Joseon responds that all foreigners must follow a rule not to display their power in public. Nonetheless, the Zensei organization disregards this rule. Chulin is then invited to meet Kenken, whom they have captured. Joseon discovers Kenken is from the Ryu family after her family informs him that Kenken has vanished from the house. Ryu's family approaches Joseon's organization for assistance in locating Kenken. Joseon was enraged when he discovered why Kenken had purposefully fled her home to join Zensei. Even she is unaware of the Zensei organization's history or mission. Kenken responded that it was none of their concern. She claims that Joseon's organization appears arrogant and intent on finding fault with foreigners. She claims that Joe's organization is government-funded, allowing them to do whatever they want. Joe claims Kenken's accusations are false because they only intervene when strangers cause trouble. He asks her to reveal the Zensei organization's motivation for targeting the Zhang family. Kenken, on the other hand, appears unconcerned and covers everything. Joseon found it strange because she is from the Ryu family, which is well known among foreigners. Why would she want to join Zensei, let alone defend them? Hearing Joseon's words, Kenken responded that Ryu's famous family had caused her a lot of pain, because she has been forced to train and inherit Jiangshi's control and power since childhood. Until Kenken had to spend 14 years in her house just to practice and make friends with the Jiangshi. If she refuses to train, she will be beaten, and she will be unable to escape because she is constantly locked up and has no human friends. Even if she flees, she has no idea where she will go. Kenken is only allowed to appear when she has mastered all of her power spells. That's why she works so hard to master everything so she can leave her house. And all of this when she was only 15 years old. Kenken was overjoyed because she could finally leave her house. Kenken, on the other hand, rebelled when she was forced to live as a normal human because she couldn't use her powers. She is perplexed as to why, after 14 years of training and confinement, she is unable to use her powers. Kenken wants to join the Zensei organization because there are no rules, and she is unconcerned about the organization's history or goals. Soon after, a man named Jo-Yan arrived. He says that if Joseon can't face a little girl, he will. When Kenken still refused to explain the Zensei organization, Jo-Yan slapped her until she fell. Joseon tried to stop Jo-Yan, but he ignored her and continued to kick Kenken's body. He threatened to disable her if she remained silent. Chulin used his King Ku to try to stop Jo-Yan. He begs Joseon to be merciful to Kenken because he is Kenken's victim. She kidnapped his grandfather's body. Joseon said he'd think about it, but those words enraged Jo-Yan, and the three of them ended up fighting. Kenken melted when she heard Chulin's words and wanted to know Zensei's plans. Kenken then stated that in the past, dozens of Zensei fighters had been defeated by a single extremely powerful opponent. Zensei organization has been looking for that person's whereabouts ever since. They were looking for him not for vengeance, but because they were drawn to that person's power. Jiang Xiling was revealed to be a man who defeated the Zensei fighters. He used to have a technique called Kitaijin when he was younger. After hearing Kenken's story, Jo-Yan became very interested in Chulin, the Kitaijin technique's inheritor. Chulin, on the other hand, claimed that he had never been taught the technique. He had only learned Xing Ku from Jiang Xiling so far, so the Zensei members were mistaken if they thought they could catch him. Soon after, the sound of a man screaming came from inside a prison when he saw Ho-Ho. Saru was the man who had saved Chulin from Zensei the day before. He changed because he was hit by Natsuka's punch, which could control one's lust until that person went insane. This is why Joseon forbade Ho-Ho from fighting Natsuka. Fortunately, Saru's injuries were not too severe, he could still be healed. Joseon then invites Chulin to talk in the office. Joe-san explains that the purpose of their organization is to assist foreigners and to stop those who interfere with ordinary people. He also invites Chulin to join their organization, but Chulin immediately declines because he believes their job is extremely dangerous. Joe-san then offers Chulin a large sum of money, but he still refuses. He inquired about the high pay if he died and was unable to enjoy it. Jo-yan then instructed Hugo to convince Chulin to join them. Without further ado, Hugo punched Chulin in the face until he collapsed and gave up. He eventually joined them. Jo-yan had apparently taught Hugo to be so brutal. He handed her an entry form and informed her that Chulin is Jo-san's responsibility. When Chulin returned to the dormitory that night, he heard someone knocking on his room door. He looked around and opened the door but saw no one. Then a strange creature descended from the sky to capture him and bring him before two women in the forest. When Chulin arrives in the forest, he prepares to attack them because he believes they are members of the Zensei organization. However, the two women denied it. In the meantime, Jo-san and Jo-yan were conversing in Jo-san's office. Jo-san inquired as to why Jo-yan was interested in hiring Chulin. Jo-yan responded because he was drawn to the people who were pursuing Chulin, including the Zensei organization. Not only Zensei, but also a large number of foreigners will visit Chulin. As a result, Jo-yan believes that Chulin has the potential to improve the lives of foreigners. Many foreigners are currently looking for Chulin because Zensei members have spread rumors that he is the inheritor of the Kiteigen technique. The two women, on the other hand, will bring Chulin before their leader. Following that, three men arrived, one in white and two in black. They claimed that Chulin should not be brought by the two women because they wanted him to appear before their leader as well. One of the women said they were in a desperate situation because the man in white was no ordinary stranger and they couldn't fight him. Chulin refuses them all and attempts to fight back. The two men in black, on the other hand, use a technique similar to King Ku's. Meanwhile, Jo-san stated that Zhang Silin appeared to have been concealing his identity as a great fighter all along. Furthermore, the King Ku technique taught to Chulin was very different from the Kiteigen technique sought by the Zensei organization. However, the techniques of the King Ku are similar to those of the Tenshifu and Tenkai organizations. Hao Ao, on the other hand, awoke from her sleep because she sensed a powerful killing aura near her dormitory. Then a woman from Tenjikai approached her and asked her to inform Jo-san that they too desired Chulin. Hao Ao returned to her dormitory without responding to the woman. Tenjikai, the woman said, would now be monitoring the movements of strangers in the city. Jo-san's organization has been asked not to meddle in their affairs. Hao Ao still didn't care about the woman until she became irritated and attacked her, hitting Hao Ao in the face, resulting in a brief fight. The woman then introduced herself, saying her name was Fu Sein. There was an explosion which distracted Hu Hao and Sein. The explosion was caused by Chulin's fight with two men in black. Chulin appears to be able to keep up with them despite the fact that he is dealing with two men at the same time. When Ragyoku, the man in white, saw this, he intervened to fight Chulin. When Chulin attacks Ragyoku, his strength is ineffective. Even he can defeat Chulin with a single strike. Chulin stood up again and attempted to attack Ragyoku despite the fact that he couldn't touch him. Chulin, according to Ragyoku, stole King Ku's technique from Tenshifu and tainted it with his meager abilities. He attacks Chulin once more and invites his members to leave because they don't need to bring the frail Chulin with them. Chulin immediately stood up after hearing Ragyoku's words, but everyone present asked him to stop fighting Ragyoku. Despite Ragyoku's threat to paralyze Chulin, Chulin continued to challenge him. Hao Ao advised Chulin to continue fighting Ragyoku with his head held high and disregard what Ragyoku said. Sein came to meet the two female members as well. Finally, Chulin began to summon his true strength to combat Ragyoku. Hao Ao claimed Chulin used this technique when scorching the entire Jiangxi in the village cemetery. Chulin uses the Raiho technique to attack Ragyoku. They fought in the air, and Chulin was seen repeatedly attacking Ragyoku in order to breach his King Ku defense. Raihao, according to the two men in black, was an advanced King Ku technique that was difficult to master. Even within the Tenshifu organization, only Tenshi can master it and only his descendants should be able to do so. They both began to wonder who Zhang Silin was. Chulin attacked Ragyoku from a distance with white lightning because he refused to give up. Surprisingly, Ragyoku was able to counter Chulin's attack with a technique similar to his own, but with black lightning. He claimed to have gotten his power directly from Tenshi. Finally, Chulin is defeated by Ragyoku, and he appears to be seriously injured. However, Huo quickly aided Chulin and was able to stop Ragyoku's black ki with only her knife. She stated that if Ragyoku attacks again, Tenshifu and her organization will go to war. Ragyoku then retracted his earlier statement that Chulin was not worthy of visiting Tenshifu. He then personally invites Chulin to the event that will be held to select Tenshi's successor. He also stated that Chulin was deserving of being Tenshi's successor. Chulin and Ho-Ho were walking somewhere the next day. Jo-san summoned the two of them to the house he had rented for them to practice in a remote village for a month. Chulin boasts to Ho-Ho that despite losing, he was able to match Ragyoku's strength last night. However, she stated that Ragyoku only used 1/3 of his strength last night in order to test Chulin's strength. Ho-Ho stated that while Chulin had no desire to be Tenshi's successor, he had to attend an event organized by Tenshifu in order to learn the truth about Zhang Xilin. It's possible that Tenshi Zhang Jini knew the answer. The two of them then entered the house. Ho-Ho suddenly pressed her head against Chulin's head, causing him to feel sick and faint. Chulin felt ki flow from his body. She then sprayed him with water until he awoke. Ho-Ho had passed her strength to Chulin, who had then asked her to train. Ho-Ho's power was very effective in Chulin's body because he could feel his kai flowing in it. She explained that the technique was known as Nufuko. The innocent Ho-Ho stripped naked in front of Chulin to take a shower, unaware that what she was doing was wrong. Chulin couldn't concentrate while meditating because of Ho-Ho's actions earlier. When he wasn't focused on practicing, Ho-Ho would hit him. This irritates Chulin, so he returns to the dormitory and declares that their master-servant game is over. If Chulin continued to walk away, Ho-Ho threatened him with her knife. Nonetheless, he appeared to disregard her threat and opened the door to leave. Ho-Ho pleaded with him not to go. Chulin still left her despite the fact that she had destroyed a portion of the house. Sane approached Chulin in a car as he walked towards the dormitory. Tenjikai, she said, was more sincere in welcoming him. He then wishes to accompany Sane to meet her father. It turns out that the Tenjikai organization is part of a larger corporation known as the Tenge Group. When Fu Chanhao entered Sane's father's room, he introduced himself. Chanhao then introduced Chulin to Zhejiangmu, a well-known martial artist among foreigners. Chanhao explained that Tenjikai was looking for talented individuals and wanted Chulin to join them, so he was given some time to consider his options. He also stated that he wanted Chulin to date Sane. Ho-Ho, on the other hand, appears dissatisfied because Chulin abandoned her. Soon after, Jo-san and Jo-Yan arrived at Ho-Ho's house. Jo-san then learned that Chulin was currently in Tenkai. Jo-Yan suggests that Ho-Ho meet with Chulin and requests that he return. But because they had a fight, Ho-Ho had to apologize to Chulin. Jo-san responded that it would be challenging because she had never apologized to anyone. They dressed Ho-Ho in various styles to recapture Chulin's attention. Kenken then appears and inquires as to what is going on. They have forgiven Kenken, releasing her from their prison, but in exchange, she must work part-time at their facility. Chulin is tempted and wants to forgive Kenken because she dresses Ho-Ho right away. Chulin, on the other hand, was conversing with Chanhao at his workplace. Chanhao told him about the past of a stranger. He claimed that there was conflict among foreigners until war broke out. However, no one knows what conflict occurred between them that resulted in the war, because foreign leaders appear to conceal it from all of their constituents. However, he has investigated it and discovered that they are fighting over 8 great powers among foreigners. Kitajian, Zhang Xilin's power, is one of them. Fu Tenyu, Chanhao's grandfather, turns out to have the summoning power that other foreigners desire. Chanhao wants Chulin to help him solve the mysteries of the 8 powers because they are both descended from very powerful strangers. Ho-Ho soon arrived at the Tenge Group in search of Chulin. However, the female receptionist stated that Chulin and Chanhao were currently having an important conversation. Ho-Ho was then dragged out by 2 male security guards, but she easily escaped and defeated all of the guards while continuing to call Chulin's name. Soon after, 3 men arrived, one of whom was Chanhao's son, Shinton, and 1 woman who worked as a Tenge Group executive. Instead, Ho-Ho approached them and inquired about Chulin's whereabouts. However, she was attacked by one of the men, causing her to bounce. Ho-Ho then retaliated against the man. They then gathered around Ho-Ho, but she was able to defeat them all. Meanwhile, Sane is meeting with Chulin and tells him that if he wants to join Tenkai, he can date her. Even when he tries to flee from her, Chulin refuses. Sane claims she was forced to go on a date with him by her father. After that, Sane used her strength to attack Chulin, but he was able to block her attack with his King Ku. Even though she manages to knock him down, he is unable to touch Sane's body. Chulin can't touch Sane because she has teleportation power. Chanhao, on the other hand, was seen sitting with Zhejiangmu. Following that, a man entered and stated that there was an intruder from Jo-san's organization. Chanhao directed his executives to confront them, but they had already been defeated by Ho-Ho. Meanwhile, Shinton was terrified of confronting Ho-Ho after witnessing her strength while fighting with his 3 companions earlier. Chanhao then told Zhejiangmu that he would deal with the problem himself. However, Zhejiangmu, who had recently joined the Tenjikai organization, stated that he would face them. Sane, on the other hand, was still attempting to persuade Chulin to take Chanhao's requests into consideration. Chulin just laughed and said he knew Sane's true nature, which was as rude and restless as when they first met. Chulin then invites Sein to place a wager. If he can beat her, she must release him, but if he loses, he is willing to comply with her request. Meanwhile, one of the men who lost to Huho told Shinten that she was so powerful that even Chanhao could lose to her. Shinten, on the other hand, claimed that his father had invited the powerful Zhejianggu to confront her. Huho, who was looking for Chulin, met Zhejianggu by chance. He immediately attacked her, but she only avoided his attack because she was wearing high heels at the time, causing her to slip and be attacked by him. Shinten claimed that Zhejianggu's attack had the potential to numb his opponent's body. Even though Zhejianggu kept attacking Huo, his attacks had little effect on her. Zhejianggu described the woman he fought this time as unusual. He immediately attacked Huo with a sharp flying weapon, but she was able to repel all of his attacks. Shinten and the executives were present during Huo's fight with Zhejianggu. Shinten stated that Zhejianggu's power was distinct from Josan's telekinesis ability, which could only cause objects to float. Because he coats each of his weapons with Qi, his power can control objects from afar. Zhejianggu is known as a weapon expert because he can combine weapons with his own Kai. Zhejianggu then grabbed Huo's head and pointed his gun at her in an attempt to enrage her. Huo stated that Kenken had forbidden her from taking off her shoes in order for Chulin to return to her. The enraged Huo immediately removed her shoes and blamed it all on Zhejianggu. Chulin and Sein, on the other hand, have begun to place their wagers. Even if Sein does not use his King Ku, none of Sein's attacks can reach Chulin. Chulin eventually won the wager. Sein then inquired as to the technique he employed. Chulin described the technique as Shuroi Komushi, which he developed from the Raiho technique. She then followed through on her promise and let him go. Meanwhile, Huo, who had removed her heels, was moving quickly and could attack Zhejianggu. Chanhao then went to Zhejianggu's house to witness their fight. Zhejianggu continued to attack Huo because he didn't want to appear defeated in front of Chanhao. Zhejianggu saw the disparity in their strength and regretted fighting her alone. Huo stated that she was bored and didn't want to play any longer because she had come to find Chulin. She begged Zhejianggu to put an end to their fight. Zhejianggu, knowing he couldn't beat her, took advantage of the situation to speak arrogantly in front of Chanhao. He said he was about to start fighting seriously when she asked him to stop, and he agreed. Zhejianggu told Huo to beg him again, and she did so right away. Zhejianggu, who was becoming increasingly arrogant, even told Huo to kneel, but she pressed his head to kneel at her feet instead. An enraged Zhejianggu attacked her from behind, but Huo hit his head again with her heels until it became lodged in his skull. Chulin, on the other hand, who had been told by Sein to leave, teased her by asking for her phone number. She then slammed into him through the floor. Chulin was taken aback by the presence of Huo when he fell. She then lowered her head and apologized to him. Chulin said he'd think about it, and he asked Huo to do the same. He asked her not to move for a while because he needed to apologize to Chanhao for having to accompany Huo. Chanhao became enraged upon hearing this and demonstrated his strength in front of Chulin. Huo offered to assist, but Chulin refused. Chulin, on the other hand, felt pressured by Chanhao's key power and was unable to move. But it turned out that Chanhao was only testing Chulin's strength, and he laughed as he realized it. Chanhao was drawn to Chulin because he was brave enough to face his own strength. He then allowed Chulin and Huo to depart. But Zhejianggu refused to accept defeat and declared that he would not let Huo go. He attacked her again, but this time she didn't dodge because she was obeying Chulin's order not to move. Chanhao strangled Zhejianggu after that. He was let down because Zhejianggu attacked a woman who had no intention of fighting him from behind. Meanwhile, Huo was seen fainting from severe bleeding. Chanhao then summoned Shinten and instructed him to use his soul's summoning power to immediately summon a doctor to heal Huo. Shinten was able to summon the soul of the best male surgeon and extract a sharp weapon from Huo's body. Huo's wound was severe according to him. The Tenge Group employee then informed Chanhao that Josan and Zhou Yan had arrived. When they entered the room, Chanhao apologized immediately for the incident with Huo. Josan and Zhou Yan, on the other hand, appeared calm and asked Shinten to stop treating her. Shinten refuses to let Huo go because she could die if the treatment is discontinued. Zhou Yan stated that whatever happened to Huo was his fault. Shinten was about to stop when he heard Chanhao's order. Chulin was among those who returned to the base. On the way, Chulin still blamed himself for Huo's serious injury. However, Zhou Yan made fun of Chulin in order to irritate him, and then Josan asked Chulin to calm down because they might disturb Huo, who was sleeping. Josan asked Chulin to use his Kai to sense Huo's condition. Chulin felt Huo's breath and noticed that her bleeding had stopped. Chulin, who is perplexed, inquires as to who Huo is and why she wishes to protect him. Josan stated that they didn't even know the specifics of Huo's true identity. Even Hou asked Jo-san for information about her past that she couldn't recall. Ragyoku, on the other hand, appears to be meeting with an elderly man named Kao to inform him of a Tenshifu event. He asked Kao not to tell anyone, particularly the Zensei organization. After Ragyoku left, it was discovered that Natsuka had used Kao. Even Ku and his son Ketsu fight for Natsuka. Natsuka is then informed by Kao that Ragyoku will be celebrated in Tenshifu. Natsuka instructed Ketsu to take the test for Tenshi's successor. However, he responded that many martial arts experts would attend. Following that, a Zensei male member named Hinshu arrived and stated that he would give Ketsu strength. Soon after, they ran into Ryu, who had recovered the memories from Zhang Xilin's corpse. Suman, one of Zensei's male members, saw the memory and commented that it was interesting but not very useful. Ryu said something to Suman that made him say that the contents of the memory were more interesting than the Kitteijin they were looking for. Ryu claims to have a plan that will cause Jo-san's organization to panic. Chulin, on the other hand, had stayed with Hou for a few days but hadn't awoken yet. Jo-san and Jo-yan arrived, and Jo-yan directed Chulin to his campus. They would be waiting for Hou, who would soon awaken. When Chulin has left, Jo-san asks Jo-yan how long Hou will be awake and how long they will have to keep her past hidden from Chulin. Hou awoke soon after, but he didn't appear to have been seriously injured. Meanwhile, Chulin walked towards his campus, his mind racing with questions. Ryu was following him without his knowledge. Chulin appeared behind Ryu not long after he realized he was being followed. Ryu panicked and claimed he was alone and had no intention of attacking him. He informs Chulin that he is a foreigner with inherited abilities. Ryu demonstrated his ability to absorb and control the ki of others. He also showed Chulin Zhang Xilin's most recent memory to see what Zhang Xilin had seen most recently. Ryu quickly said goodbye after giving Chulin the memory. Chulin, who was intrigued, finally saw the memory and saw Hou. This means that Hou was in front of Zhang Xilin before he died. He then ran back to the house Jo-san had rented, claiming that Jo-san and Jo-yan had been deceiving him all along. Chulin couldn't find them all when he arrived. Zhang Xilin's memory before he died 12 years ago revealed that he saw Hou, whose appearance had not changed until now. Jo-san then summons Chulin to the hospital to see their father, Jo-shu, who has been in a coma for an extended period of time. But he had awoken and expressed a desire to meet Chulin. Chulin stated that he did not know their father and inquired as to whether Hou was the one who murdered Zhang Xilin 12 years ago. Chulin was overcome with emotion when Hou admitted to killing Zhang Xilin. Jo-shu, on the other hand, awakens and requests that Chulin listen to his story about himself and someone named Amu, who turns out to be Hou's real name. He claimed he first met Amu in 1944. Jo-shu's father and mother assisted Hou, who was being bullied by two men at the time, and took her home. Hou met Jo-shu, a 9-year-old boy, in that house. However, when Hou was spoken to, he remained silent, leaving everyone perplexed. Following that, Jo-shu's father went to the city in search of Hou's family, but he came up empty-handed. Hou has been living with Jo-shu's family since then. The villagers gave Hou, who refused to interact with others, the name Amu. Amu learned many things from Jo-shu's family, including how to speak. Amu was once asked by Jo-shu's mother if she remembered anything about her past. But when she tried to recall something, her head ached. Jo-shu then brought a male doctor to treat Amu, but she discovered that she could heal herself using Kai. Jo-shu had never seen Ki before. It was later revealed that the doctor was aware of Q and had advised Jo-shu's family not to tell anyone about it. Jo-shu inquired about Ki with Amu late at night. He immediately began practicing Kai on her until his body felt the power of his first Kai. 5 years after they first discovered Amu, Jo-shu's family stated that they must find her family soon. Jo-shu advised them to think of Amu as a member of their family. The robbers arrived one day and looted the villagers' property. Amu arrived shortly after and had no idea what was going on. The robbers attempted to kidnap her, but Jo-shu's father vowed to protect her until he was killed by one of the robbers. When Jo-shu saw this, he became enraged and attempted to attack the robber, but he was injured instead. Amu, the innocent, ran to Jo-shu's mother, who was sobbing over her husband's death. Amu stated that seeing Jo-shu's mother cry hurt her chest. She inquires as to what she should do to make Jo-shu's mother happy once more. Jo-shu's mother, who was furious, stated that the only thing that could make her happy was if Amu could kill all of the robbers. When Amu heard this, he slaughtered all the robbers in front of everyone. Jo-shu, who had awoken, witnessed the terrible incident. Residents who witnessed this were also terrified of Amu, referring to her as a monster and even driving her out of the village. Jo-shu and his mother then followed Amu. Amu had been asked by Jo-shu's mother to wait for them on a mountain. and they would meet her soon. Joshu's mother lied because she was afraid of the incident. It turns out, she took Joshu to see his grandmother. Joshu had never seen Emu since. Until 1993, Joshu, 58, was asked by a friend to establish a company that deals with foreigners. Joshu initially refused, but his friend showed him a photo of Emu being arrested by police because the woman claimed she was looking for someone she escaped from custody. Following that, Joshu agreed to establish the company on the condition that he be granted complete access to information, including information about the government. Joshu was finally able to meet with Emu again thanks to the assistance of his friends. Emu has since become a member of the package delivery service. Joshu receives a call one day and asks Emu to accompany him because there is information about her past. According to the person who called Joshu, all of the important foreign figures were meeting at the time, and perhaps one of them knew about Emu's past. When they arrived at the meeting point, however, there had been a massacre, and many foreigners had died. All of those who died on the spot were powerful foreigners and leaders of the organization. They wondered who could kill such a large number of strangers all at once. They witnessed the fight as well, and one powerful individual was killed. Zhang Xitlin was declared the victor of the battle. He stated that he, along with all foreigners left behind by the war, must die for the sake of future generations. Joshu and Emu then went to see Zhang Xitlin, who had been severely injured. Zhang Xitlin turns out to know Emu, whose real name is Fu Haohao. Emu immediately asked Zhang Xitlin about her past, but he couldn't tell her and only gave her the opportunity to find out for herself. Haohao had no choice but to stay with and protect his grandson Chulin. Zhang Xitlin stated that if Haohao stayed close to Chulin, she would find the answer. He claimed that Huhu was to blame for the old foreigner wars, and that her past was also linked to that conflict. He also reminded Huhu to stay by Chulin's side to learn more about her past. Because Zhang Xitlin was so badly injured at the time, he requested that Huhu kill him now. It turned out that the power that Huhu transferred to Chulin yesterday was a deposit from Zhang Xitlin in order for him to gain more power. Finally, Huhu was willing to kill Zhang Xitlin because she couldn't stand seeing him in pain and suffering. So the last thing Zhang Xitlin remembered seeing was Haohao. They then visited Chulin's school when he was still a child. Haohao had been caring for Chulin since he was a child, without his knowledge. To keep her promise to Zhang Xitlin, Haohao pretended not to know Chulin when they first met at the tomb the other day. Joshu searched for information about Zhang Xitlin after meeting him. According to information obtained in 1994, a member of the Tenshifu organization allegedly fled his organization. Joshu assumed the man was Zhang Xitlin. Joshu invites Chulin to participate in Tenshifu's tournament to find the truth directly through Tenshi. He then exhaled his last breath. Chulin was not present at Joshu's funeral because he was still locked in his room to think. Chulin then appears at Joshu's funeral, telling everyone that he has decided to enter the Tenshifu tournament and asking Huhu to train him again. The moral of this anime is that just because someone has blood descendants from great or even bad people does not mean that their descendants will be similar to them. This is the end of The Outcast Season 1. Thank you to keep watching the content from this channel. Remember to like and subscribe to keep you updated with our latest content. See you in the next video.